Okay, drawn together, solo episode, part 2, attempt 2. I've tried to film this before and I kind of just didn't have a plan. And I am once again trying without a plan because I don't want it to be like scripted, I guess. But I know what it's like to talk to myself for 45 minutes now because I don't talk to myself at home. I know a lot of people, when they're walking around their house, talk at home. I think it's bizarre. But I know a lot of people do it, so I'm not judging. I still don't know what to draw. In my first attempt at this solo episode, I drew my dog and it turned out so bad that it was an affront to my dog. It was really offensive, so I'm not gonna try to do that again. I'm wondering, like, do I do a still life? I might honestly just try to draw these like body armor bottles. I don't have a sponsor. They're not technically a sponsor of my YouTube or anything, but they can be. So this can be an invitation to body armor. So what I was saying, I'm not good at talking to myself. I don't normally talk to myself, and I don't have an internal monologue. And I know people are gonna be like, you're trying to be special, you're trying to be different. I really don't think I have one because I don't think in like sentences. I don't know if that has a correlation with being impulsive. I might be an impulsive person. I think I am, but I also overthink decisions. I don't really know. All I'm saying is I don't have an internal monologue. So I don't know if that's gonna make this solo thing harder or easier. But I kind of just wanted to do a solo episode because a lot of people are listening to my interview show, which I love. And I know what that means is that people like listening to other people talk to me and me talk to other people. So I know people aren't exactly like, oh my God, like I wanna know, I messed up already. I wanna know what Oona's doing. I wanna know about Oona. I know that's not exactly why people are watching my show. They're watching it to know about White Chocolate, Dave Portnoy, Lil Sass, Brianna. That's why they're watching it. But I do think if I give some context about who I am and how I got to where I am, I don't know, it could be good. People might want to know that. I've been getting a lot of questions about myself online since my show started to kind of, be slightly somewhat successful. So I thought I would try to answer them and kind of give a little bit of my life story. So this it looks like shit, but starting out, I guess I'll talk about drawing because my thing here has kind of become drawing. These are like body armor bottles, but like compressed versions, like little people. Like if you put a body armor bottle in a hydraulic press, that's what this is gonna look like, okay? I've always drawn. I never had technical lessons, I guess, until sort of near the end of college. I had I had enough credits and I just sort of could take whatever I wanted. And then I was like, I guess I love drawing, but I've always just drawn as a hobby. I used to trace when I was a kid, and then I realized that that's a little bit frowned upon, tracing things, but I would literally look up pictures on my parents' computer and then just trace it, and I'd be like, I drew this, which technically I drew it, but that's not what people mean. When people say they draw things, they don't mean they traced it, and I learned that pretty quickly when I showed my dad a photorealistic drawing of a raccoon in a trash can when I was like 10, and he was like, there's no fucking way you drew that. And I was like, yeah, I traced it. And he was like, I don't think you can say that. Okay, this is what we've got so far. It's kind of, so yeah, I've always just kind of drawn as a hobby. And then when I got to Barstool, the reason that I guess this show started is because I'd posted some art I'd done before. One drawing I did was really popular. I guess when I posted, a lot of people were like, holy shit, you did that, which was this gouache painting of Rory winning the Masters. And I just sold that actually a couple weeks ago. It was like one of the first paintings I've ever sold. So that was very cool. Shout out to the guy who bought that. And so people were like, oh shit, you have a skill. And I was like, I guess, but since I've never really taken it super seriously, it's kind of hard to gauge how good I am at it because it wasn't like I was like leveling up. Like I took an intro drawing class, but I already kind of knew how to draw. So it wasn't like I ever took advanced drawing. So I couldn't ever say definitively, I'm good at this. I have these, official mastered skills. It was more just like, I like doing this and I guess I'm decent because I've been doing it for so long. It really was just years and years and years of drawing and painting. So then Roan was like, oh, you like to draw. Why don't you do a show with that where you talk to someone and you draw? And it was originally going to be a short clips show was going to be like 3 minutes long. And so that's how it started. I did an episode. My first episode ever was with Jackie, my girl Jackie Nichols. And then I did one with Tommy and Mook. I think those were my first 3. Maybe Rowan was 3 and then Mook was 4. I can't remember. But the comments were all like, this is great, but longer. And I was like, oh my God, that changes my whole plan for this show. It was only going to be 3-minute max episodes. But it really is hard to get into the type of questions I wanted to ask in 3 minutes. I found myself wanting to ask about long stories and ask questions that, take longer than 3 minutes to explain. And editing those was tough. I had a hard time editing things into 3 minutes because there was just so much meat left on the bone. So that's when I started saying, okay, why do I have to have these be so short? Obviously, this is not my job, but I have time and I want to make it good and I want to make it the best I can make it. And I really do think the best format for this show is, 15 to 25. I believe the shortest one I've done is probably, besides this 3-minute one's probably like 10 minutes, and the longest one I've done I think was 25 with Sass. So I think that really is the best format. If people want longer, I do get comments that are like, we want even longer. And as I grow the show and as I'm able to get guests outside of Barstool, a lot of guests don't have time. They don't want to do longer and they don't have time to do longer, and that's fine. And I also like how it's fast moving. I don't like dead air. I'm very meticulous with how I edit it, which is why if my show, God willing, it'd be amazing, blew up and someone else started editing it, I would freak out. Like, I'm such a control freak about it. I know there's a ton of cuts and people are like, why are there so many cuts? What is she cutting out? I want there to not be a second of the show where it loses your attention. I want it to be like there's not a second drop off of the energy of the conversation, of the flow of conversation. Okay, I drew the silhouettes of 3 compressed bottles and now I don't really know what to do from here, but whatever, I'll keep going. Growing up is a bullet point I wrote. I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've never moved. My family I grew up in the same house my whole life. And I know people are gonna say, then why are you a Duke fan? I tweet about Duke, I post about Duke, I cry about Duke, I celebrate Duke, I shit on UNC. And it's because that's how I was raised. I really didn't have a choice. You're not gonna ask a Catholic, why are you a Catholic? It's because they were raised Catholic. I mean, unless you converted to Catholicism, then that's a different case, of course. But I was raised that way. There were season tickets in my family. My grandparents went there, worked there. So I went to games growing up before I even really knew about basketball. Duke fans call Cameron Indoor Stadium our house. Like, oh, it's our house, whatever, home game, our house. And I was so young when I started going to college basketball games and watching college basketball. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't understand how to use possessive terms. So I would say, Dad, whose our house is it at? Being like, okay, there's a game tonight. We're gonna watch the game on the TV. Whose our house is it at? So that gives some insight into just how young I was when I was indoctrinated into, the brotherhood, the Duke brotherhood. I really didn't have a choice. And going to high school in Chapel Hill as a Duke fan was fucking crazy. It would be Jersey Thursday, whatever it's called. And I'd wear my Duke jersey and I would just get shat on. I'd get shit on by everyone. And that was when UNC was still a formidable opponent. Yes, they beat us this year, so I'm not saying they're not a formidable opponent, but they were better. Hubert Davis, they fired him. This is not a sports podcast. You guys can tune into Hoopin' and Hollerin' for that. I'm done with talking about basketball now. Growing up, in Chapel Hill, high school, COVID during high school. I would say a big part of my high school, unfortunately, was defined by the fact that I had a boyfriend, which I don't regret having a boyfriend in high school. I do regret having him take up so much of my time. And COVID started junior year, halfway through junior year. So it was kind of like everyone had their bubbles who they were allowed to hang out with, and I could kind of only hang out with him. So it was really hard for me to maintain all my friendships to an equal level because it was like, okay, I was allowed to hang out with my boyfriend because he was, I guess, in my family's bubble. So a lot of my time was spent with him. We dated for, I think, 3 years. So in high school and at that age, it's a long time, and we thought we were gonna get married. Like a few months ago, I went home for Christmas and I was cleaning out my desk drawer and I found a Christmas card from him. I'm not gonna insert a photo because that feels like a breach of privacy, but it said like, Merry Christmas. I can't wait till, this is gonna sound fucking insane. I know, because we were like 16 or something. It was like, I can't wait till we have like our own Christmas and our own family and have like kids running around. I don't know if it said kids running around, but it was like, can't wait till we have our own family basically. And I read that and I was like, yeah, this is gonna happen. We're gonna get married. That didn't happen. We broke up. We broke up when we graduated college, and I was a little bit lost for a little bit because he was like he was a built-in part of my life. Obviously, everyone says this, but like he wasn't just my boyfriend, he was my best friend, blah, 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 blah. So cliche, but it's true. But going to college right after a breakup did help a lot. Anyways, there's a lot more of that. That's like very long story short. College, I went to Tulane University in New Orleans. New Orleans is one of my favorite places in the entire world. The food is amazing. It's hard to find a vegetable there. It's hard to find a good salad in New Orleans, I will say. It's hard to find a vegetable, but in general, it's amazing. I love Tulane. I visited the campus after I'd already committed, which was a bold move, but it was COVID, so it was so hard to travel and visit places, and I was like, this is it. Like, I fucking love it here. I love Tulane. All my closest friends are from Tulane. I met them there. I was in a sorority. I was in Kappa Kappa Gamma. But sorority culture at Tulane is not how it is where I grew up. Like at UNC, it's such a big deal. At Tulane, it's really what you want it to be. You can be as involved or as uninvolved as you want. And I really joined a sorority to have a sense of community. I never had sisters to have almost built-in female friends, and it worked. And now those are my closest friends in the world, is the girls I met in my sorority. So I'm super grateful for that. I definitely wouldn't consider myself like a sorority girl. I had a position. I was the historian or the ritual person. So I had to do all like the creepy ritual shit. But a lot of people ask me all the time about law school because I always said right when I got here, right when I was interning for KFC Radio, oh, you were going to go to law school, you're going to go to law school. Yes, I was. A lot of people also ask, how close were you really going to law school? So I kind of jump the gun on things, I would say. Not in a bad way, but I tend to try to over-prepare, and I get anxiety when I don't have control, so I try to make big plans. And I guess probably sophomore year, I studied psychology, by the way. I probably should have said that. I studied psychology and political science. I got a Bachelor of Science, but I was more interested in sort of social psychology, behavioral psychology, less neurology, less neuroscience. So I always thought I might want to do something in either, the legal field, politics, but not like a politician, more like journalism, news stuff, which, actually does somewhat fit into what I'm doing now. I work in a media company. It's actually not the biggest jump. Obviously, it is very different from law school. I think I decided, I really want to go to law school maybe sophomore year, junior year. I was pretty set on it. And then I had this whole timeline. I'm going to take the LSAT this time. And I got a good LSAT score. I didn't study for that long. And I kind of just took it being like, this is going to be my first of many, takes. And then my first take was good. I would retake it. If I had decided I'm going to go to law school, I would have retaken it. But at the same time, like, my score is good enough that I could apply with it and go to a great law school. You know what I mean? So how close was I going to law school? I guess it depends on what you mean by that. It was the trajectory I was on, and I had a paralegal internship type thing lined up until I decided to work at Barstool. So then that kind of leads me to, people say, why do you want to work at Barstool? I was a big Barstool fan. I love the content. I had a few podcasts in my rotation, not all Barstool podcasts, but I always am listening to something, and I kind of got sick of my music, and I was like, why don't I start listening to podcasts? And KFC Radio was one that just came on. I don't remember what I was doing, like on YouTube, I think my freshman year of college or something. And so it kind of became my daily routine was KFC Radio, and then I used to listen to Call Her Daddy. I used to always listen to BFFs. So podcasts were kind of my thing, and I was like, this is such an interesting company. There's really nothing like it. I find the people here so endearing, so funny. I mean, I like to laugh. Who doesn't like to laugh? But I just thought, why not try to get at least an internship at a media company? Why not see what that's like? You know what I mean? Because obviously, I really did want to become a paralegal and then go to law school, but I almost realized I had never let myself consider another opportunity, because once I said, okay, I'm going to law school, I was set on that. And then I was like, why don't I look into the things I love listening to, the things that I consume every day? Why don't I look into that as a possible career? Because it could be fucking sick. So once I did, and once I realized it was a real possibility, I almost didn't look back. I was like, once I got this internship, I told my parents, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. It's $16 an hour. I'm gonna have to live in New York off of that, which people not from New York, people don't live here, might be like, that's plenty of money. It's not. Paying rent, it's not. Luckily, I had family friends I was able to stay with. I did some couch surfing to be able to afford my life and do the internship. So that's kind of why I wanted to come to Barstool, I guess. This is turning out super weird. It looks like those mini baby water bottles that they give you that are one sip that just leave you more thirsty. I'm gonna answer some questions that I've gotten online. Someone asked me what the first piece of Barstool content I consumed was. I think the very first piece of Barstool content I consumed, the Instagram account, it's a staple of my generation. I know that sounds fucking insane, but it really is. It's like, oh, I saw it on Barstool. And I think people often know what the Instagram account is without knowing that there's a whole company, a whole reality show talking about the whole company behind it. It's like, oh, I saw it on Barstool. That's probably the first interaction I had with anything Barstool related. And then I think besides that, probably the pizza review with the armless, the how's he pulling that thing. Someone asked me if my dad's a rock star, and I get a lot of questions about my dad and my family. A lot of people say I'm Nepo, which is really funny. I'm not Nepo, but I kind of take that as a compliment because I'm so proud of my dad and my parents and their careers. I'm so proud of them. So to be called a Nepo, even though I'm not, is a compliment because it's a compliment to my parents. It's saying, oh, your parents are successful and connected enough that they could get you a job here. They're not connected to Barstool. They're successful, they're very successful, but they're not connected in the media realm in this way, not this type of media, not sports media. So my dad is in a band, he's a singer, and he also is the founder and owner of a record label. So he owns Merge Records. It's an indie rock label, and then he's a singer in the band Superchunk, and he also has some solo stuff. His name is McCaughan. My mom has an equally sick job. My mom's a chef. And a lot of the time people will say, oh, does that mean you ate so well growing up, you must have had five? Yes, but I didn't realize it at the time. My mom would make some crazy shit, and I wouldn't even know that it was like good. I think I was almost spoiled in my tastes because I didn't know that it was out of the ordinary, you know what I mean? So it almost had the opposite effect of, it'd be like, I would go home and for dinner, my mom would be making like fucking crudo and like a 4-course meal with dessert, entree. She'd be making everything from scratch. She never used mixes. She rarely used recipes. She just has it. She didn't go to cooking school. My mom can cook fucking anything and she can make anything delicious. But anyways, the point of what I was saying is sometimes I'd go home and I'd be like, let me have buttered noodles, bruh. And it makes me sound so spoiled and so ungrateful. And maybe at times I was, because I didn't realize that I had a James Beard Award-winning chef cooking me dinner. Like, I didn't realize. And my dad was also a great cook because I think he picked up some things along the way, you know what I mean? My parents have really cool careers, and I think that's one of the reasons I kind of was gonna go to law school and then I wasn't gonna go to law school and I was gonna work here. It's like, they always taught me, you are not one thing. You can have many interests. You're never defined by one career choice, one move you make, you know what I mean? Like, they always encouraged every hobby. You know, I play piano. They always encouraged whatever lessons I wanted to take. Like, they wanted to support me in any endeavor I wanted. So when I said I wanted to intern here, even though it's the biggest switch up, they were like, are you sure? Like, what do you mean? Are you sure? Like, we didn't even know this was a thing because I didn't tell them about the offer until I had the actual internship offer. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And usually when I say I'm gonna do something, you know, not in a bratty way, but I make my mind up and then I do it, and they know that. So when I said I'm gonna do this, I showed them a couple clips of Jackie because I knew my mom would get a kick out of Jackie. My mom was like, all right, I could see you being friends with her. Like, you can do the internship. And then the rest was history, I guess, from there. I don't even know what the question was. Was my dad a rock star? Yeah, my dad's a fucking rock star. But I'm not a Nepo. Biggest inspiration growing up, why were they important to you? My biggest inspiration growing up was my mom. I know I was just talking about my mom, but she really was, because she's very real. she never sugarcoated anything for me as a kid, and as a parent, one day if I have kids, I want to be the same as her. She didn't exactly, I wasn't made to grow up too fast. It's not what I mean by what I'm about to say, but there was no training wheels for me. Do you know what I mean? I guess a lot of people in the older generation, like I'm thinking of Clemmer, because Clemmer's always talking about this. It's like I wasn't tracked. I had no phones. I was allowed to go out and play outside and walk to my friend's house and walk there, and I was alone in New York City and no one told me. That's how my childhood was. It was kind of like, all right, go do it. You know what I mean? And I didn't always have the cushioning that other people had. I was never in need. They weren't neglecting me, but I was a very independent kid. And okay, I'm going on like such a tangent. Doing this solo is so hard because I can't answer the question. No one's here to be like, and answer the question. I was an independent kid, whatever. Oh yeah, my mom was so real. She didn't sugarcoat anything. And I looked up to her so much for that, because as a young kid, you feel like everyone around you, all they want to do is sugarcoat. And it felt like I would go to my mom and my mom would be like, this is how it is. She was honest about family issues. She was honest about personal issues. She was honest about her own issues. She never tried to portray herself as this perfect adult, like who had everything together, because no one is. And I looked up to her so much for that, because even as a little kid, you know when someone's being real. And my dad too. My dad's great too. And so is my brother. But my mom was definitely my biggest inspiration. If I didn't get a job at Barstool, what would I be doing? Right now, I would be sitting in a cubicle at a law firm, which I know you're like, oh, probably like, what a relief. That's really not how I feel, surprisingly enough. I think I would have liked it. I don't think it would have been as fun. I think I like this way more. I think I feel way more fulfilled here. I think I feel way more excited to come to work here. But I think I would have been okay, because it is something I wanted to do, and I'm not like poo-pooing law firm jobs, being a paralegal, going to law school whatsoever. I really don't want to come off that way, because it was something that I was genuinely excited to do. I find the law and the legal system like fascinating, and I think I would be at a law firm. I would be doing grunt work. I would be probably doing paralegal grunt work, which, you know, that part probably would have sucked. I'm not going to try to act like it wouldn't have. But that's what I would be doing right now. One comment I get is like, it's funny because I have a show that's kind of centered around drawing. It's an interview show, but it's centered around drawing. And my drawings aren't that good. The drawings I do on the show aren't that good for a lot of reasons. One, I want the crux of the show. I want what makes the show to be the interview. I don't want it to be me drawing. I don't want it to be like, you know, a front for, look at this skill I have. I'm gonna just do this interview thing on the side as a front to be like, actually, look how good I am at drawing. It's really not what it is, and you can tell because my drawings are kind of shit normally from the show. But people say, I wanna see you draw at your full potential. I can't do a video drawing at my full potential, because my best drawings, and I'll insert some of them here, these are some I did in college. I'll put these 4 drawings I did for a class of my bedroom. It took me 4 months. And they took me 4 months of hours and hours and hours working every day. So it's like, I can't just sit down and do a video drawing at my full potential. No, I can do my best. I could do one over the course of a week, like seeing, you know, try to do a still life over the course of a week. I could try to do that, but I also have a job. You know what I mean? In college, since I didn't have that many credits left and I was taking art classes, that kind of was my job. I mean, I did work in college, but I don't know. Drawing at my full potential, it's tough. I don't know what my full potential is. I'm also, to be honest, a little bit scared of trying to draw at my full potential, because I'm scared I lost it. I'm scared I lost the skill that I had when I was exercising that skill every day for hours on end when I was in college. Another comment I get a lot is, what do you do at Barstool? And I think what people mean by that is you do your one show that is not, you know, it doesn't have ads on it. I don't think people are really thinking about that aspect that much, but there's no ads on my show. I don't get paid to do Drawn Together. Nowhere in my contract, nowhere in my job, I have no obligation to do it. I love doing it. I've been told, hey, you've got a good thing going, keep doing it. This could turn into, you know, your job. But I am not really under any contractual obligation, career obligation to do it. My job is, I'm a producer first and foremost. I work on Wake Up Barstool. That is the morning show on FS1 where they talk about sports. And I work on the clips for that. Okay, so that is my main job. I work on the social, the clips for that. So when people say, what do you do at Barstool? That is my job title. That is what I do. I'm technically a social media producer. I believe that is the title on my offer letter, a social media producer. So that's my job. What do I do at Barstool? I work on Wake Up Barstool. This drawing didn't turn out well, but the point of this quick episode was not really about the drawing. I want people to be able to get to know me more, and I have some exciting interviews coming up. They have granted me some company resources, that being, the people who do the booking of the guests. So I'm going to be able to get more outside Barstool cool guests in the future. Not that the Barstool guests aren't cool, but I'm gonna branch out. I wanna reach a bigger female audience, and I wanna connect with more women. I wanna have more women on my show. So if there are people that you think, oh, she would be great on your show, comment. Oh, one other question I got is, why do you always wear clothes that are 3 sizes too big? Today I tried not to. These clothes fit me. It's because I hate when it gets hot out, because I like to dress so you can't see my silhouette. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like my body shape to be amorphous. Is that the word that I'm looking for? Anyways, I hope this gave more insight into who I am. I don't really know how to end this. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everyone who has supported me. Thank you to everyone who leaves a nice comment. Thank you to everyone who believes in me, who believes in this show, who thinks I'm a good interviewer. I just want to say thank you. And that's all. And here's my drawing. Here's this stupid fucking still life. Like, what? It's dumb, okay? I should have drawn something else. One more thing is also subscribe, because no one is subscribed that watches it. A decent amount of people, not to pat myself on the back too much, a decent amount of people watch my show. No one's subscribed. And let me know if you want another solo episode. All right, I'm shutting up now. See ya.